Please welcome the 47th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear. The golden age of America begins right now.
It's Donald Trump's world, and we're living in it again. Donald Trump is back as the 47th President of the United States. It's a return that, as India's Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar put it, places the world on the cusp of a new era. A new era indeed, one where the US steps away from its old, well-worn traditions of global leadership and zeroes in on its own interests.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first.
And here's the thing, this shift isn't just a policy change. It's a signal of something much bigger, a recalibration of how the world's most powerful nation deals with its allies, its rivals, and the complex web of relationships in between. Let's start with an image that captured global attention. At Trump's inauguration, Dr. Jaishankar wasn't just another guest among the sea of diplomats and dignitaries. He was front and center, seated right in the front row, directly facing the new president. Why does this matter? Because that placement wasn't by chance. It was a reflection of the weight Washington places on its relationship with New Delhi. The next 4 years hold tremendous promise for Indo-US ties. There's potential to redefine how the two nations work together, not just as partners, but as architects of a new global order. But let's take a step back. What's the buzz surrounding Trump's return? Well, depending on who you ask, it ranges from excitement to panic. Pundits and commentators, especially in Western capitals, are debating what this means for the US, its allies, and the broader world. And sure, Trump's comeback might feel like a storm brewing on the horizon. But here's the reality. There's little reason for India or even many developing nations to be alarmed. Trump's first order of business as president, you might ask? Tackling China. His administration is wasting no time. Just a day after the inauguration, foreign ministers of the Quad nations, India, Japan, Australia, and the US met in Washington. Their agenda, a unified strategy to address Beijing's growing assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Trump's Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, is a new and important addition to this Quad setup. Rubio isn't shy about his views. During his Senate confirmation hearing, he called China the biggest threat to America. His presence alone signals a harder stance against Beijing.
We welcome the Chinese Communist Party into the global order, and they took advantage of all of its benefits, and they ignored all of its obligations and responsibilities. Instead, they have repressed and lied and cheated and hacked and stolen their way into global superpower status, and they have done so at our expense and at the expense of the people of their own country.
Now let's talk about what's next. Among Trump's first big foreign trips as president, one could be to India for the Quad Leaders' Summit. This visit, anticipated as early as April, is already being discussed during Dr. Jaishankar's trip to Washington. In fact, Jaishankar's visit serves two purposes: representing India at the inauguration and laying the groundwork for Trump's upcoming visit. But what does Trump's return mean for India specifically? The possibilities are immense. Let's not forget, during his first term, Trump demonstrated an understanding of India's security needs, especially when it came to managing threats from Pakistan. This time around, though, things could go further. Trump is likely to push India to take a more public and aggressive stance against China. India, for its part, has been preparing for this, whether it's calling out China's actions in the South China Sea or joining Quad nations in initiating joint Coast Guard patrols. The groundwork has already been laid. But here's the catch: Trump might still want more from India. And then there's the big question everyone's asking: is Trump gearing up for conflict with China? The answer is no. Trump's strategy isn't about war, it's about leverage. Look at his actions even before taking office. He brokered a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, pausing a conflict that had been raging since October 2023. That alone shows his preference for deals over drawn-out wars. For Trump, the real battleground lies in economics. His priorities include stripping China of control over critical technologies like semiconductors, reshaping global supply chains to reduce dependence on Beijing, and bringing manufacturing back to the US. But make no mistake, Trump knows China's military capabilities cannot be ignored, which is why the Quad is central to his strategy. And what about Beijing? China sees initiatives like the Quad, AUKUS, and other US-led partnerships with Japan, South Korea, and the Philippines as tools designed to contain its rise. But these alliances have done more than just pressure Beijing. They've sent a clear message: democratic nations will not let the Indo-Pacific become a playground for unchecked Chinese aggression. Here's the big shift under Trump. He's expected to take a leadership role in the Quad for the first time. Let's not forget, the Quad only became a formal initiative in 2021 under Joe Biden. Since then, it's evolved into a robust platform with annual leader summits. This year, India is hosting such a summit, and Trump's presence there could mark a major turning point. Unlike Biden, who often expanded the Quad's focus to include issues like climate change, Trump is laser-focused on security and strategy. Expect him to double down on initiatives like joint Coast Guard patrols and push the Quad toward a more hard-nosed stance. But there's a wild card in all of this: China's next move. Communication lines between Trump and Xi Jinping are open. Beijing has even softened its infamous wolf warrior diplomacy. If China chooses to scale back its Indo-Pacific ambitions in exchange for US concessions on trade and technology, the Quad's focus could shift. From military strategy, it might pivot towards regional economic collaboration and supply chain integration. So, here we are. A new chapter begins. Trump's return brings uncertainty, of course, but it also brings opportunity. For India, this is a chance to cement its role as a critical player in shaping the future of the Indo-Pacific. The road ahead, you might ask? Well, it's unpredictable. But one thing's for sure: what happens next will shape not just the region, but the world for decades to come.